Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's reading is actually a viewer request. I thought it was a brilliant idea, so I wanted to do it. And this is looking at, her question was, why did your soul or your soul family choose your 3D life family? Is it because it is part of your soul family? Is it because it isn't and there's something else to learn? Is it because of past karma? Is it a sort of combination where there's some people from your soul family in your family, either your most immediate or your sort of extended family, or and some that aren't? It could be any number of those combinations. And it's such an interesting question because I think some of us do very much feel connected to our family and see the lineage in our culture, and it seems to make a lot of sense and it aligns with our soul. And others, I've spoken to many people who felt a little bit like, as I often say, a stranger in a strange land in their own family. Not that there wasn't necessarily love, but that there was maybe a very different spiritual approach, a different viewpoint on the world, whatever it might be, or took in very different pathways and so forth. So I thought that's a very rich sort of area to look at. So what we will be doing is we will be looking at, firstly, a kind of a sense of the energies around your soul family compared to your 3D family. So that could be the family that you were born in. I think for most people, this will be about your origin story, about the family you were born into. But for some, it may also be now an energy around a family that you're creating with a partner and children. So you'll know what you're most focused on, what you most want to question, and what the energies fit with. Could also be that you create more of a soul family with your family that you create as opposed to the one you were born into. So depending upon where you sit on that and what you feel about that kind of connection, it'll work in a number of ways. But I think for most people, this question is first answered by looking at the origin family. So we will be looking at, to start with, your soul family and then the energy around your family now, like either your birth family, as I say, or the one that you're creating, whatever you focus on. Then we're going to use a divination coin, which comes along with one of the decks that I'm using later in this particular reading. It will come up quite late in the reading, but it's a runic deck, so it's called the Runic Odyssey Oracle. Very beautiful deck, and it came with a Kickstarter backing that I did with a yes/no coin. So we're literally going to ask whether or not you did choose, because that's the other question. Do we always get to choose our lives? And I'm not sure what the answer to that is, so it will just be interesting to see for this. Then we're going to ask with the tarot whether it's yes or no, why? What is this all about? And then also, what do you learn from your 3D family? What do you teach? Then we're going to explore things around your current, your family that you're thinking about, your 3D family you're thinking about, past life connections, spiritual connections, soul development for them and for you, and we'll finish off with a sort of energetic picture of what you and your soul family and your current family look like at this point in time. So hopefully that will be interesting and go deep. We could pick up some pretty significant things here. We could also hopefully pick up some wonderful blessings and opportunities as well. The other reason that I wanted to do this, I just want to mention this reading as soon as possible, is that I also got through Kickstarter a new tarot deck called the Blue Deviant Tarot. So I'm not sure that it's available now with the Kickstarter closed, but you can keep an eye on Kickstarter with that particular title, and that's down in the description box below if you are interested in it, because sometimes that eventually gets updated to show where else you can get a deck that when the Kickstarter is finished. But it's a particularly dreamy and strange deck. It's very beautiful and very strange because the title comes from the fact that the artist curated his art that he put on deviantart.com. So that's a particular site, if you're not familiar with it, that has very sort of fantastical and fabulous and beautiful and strange and dreamy and shadowy sort of art. And so he chose out of a massive amount of art that he does, what he thought were the best sort of pieces of art to represent the tarot. And as a result, it's a very strange, beautiful deck. And I just sort of feel that it fits this sort of liminal space between the soul family and the family that you're in. It sort of takes us into the right kind of energy for that sort of reading. So just wanted to mention that because, as I say, you'll see in the description box below that I only have the name of it and the copyright to the artist, but you could go to Kickstarter and keep an eye on that if you wanted to to search it out or keep an eye on that name of tarot through Google or whatever, because I know quite a few people do like the decks that I use, and some may well collect, so I always like to point that out. Okay, so now let's get on to the pile choice. So as always, I'll put down the numbers. So you may be sort of someone who's drawn to a particular number, and that's fine. Otherwise, what I've done is I'm using the Gospel of Aradia deck here. That's an oracle deck, because although it's actually the story of the world's first witch, I find the energy in it is very, very resonant to family, community, connection. It just really talks to me on that level. So this card is meant to represent an energy of your soul family. And I've chosen them to hopefully help you choose what deck you most are drawn to. Of course, if you choose for some other way or just intuitively, that's fine. But there's this card for the soul family, and there will be another card from that deck for your 3D family as well, plus a number of other oracle cards to do the comparison. So for pile number 1, we have sisterhood. For pile number 2, we have reconciliation. For pile number 3, we have creation. And for pile number 4, we have blood. So I thought they showed different sort of energies that we may feel about our soul family, and whether we feel connected or whether we want to reconcile to that energy, whether we feel that we create from that, whether we feel that will be in our blood and that will come through our ancestry, whether we feel a sense of sisterhood or brotherhood, whatever you want to call it, across that. So I just felt that might be a helpful clue around an energy for your soul family if there aren't any other ways that you already choose. Once you do know what readings, and by all means go to a couple if you feel like you want to maybe look at the current energy of your current family and your birth family and get drawn to 2 different decks, whatever works for you. The timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So as I said, I've got a number of oracle cards to look at your soul family, the energy of your soul family, which I'm going to then compare to the energy of your 3D family. And as I say, for most of you, this will be about your origin, your birth family, but it could also be something that you replicate or something that you feel when you listen to this, it's more your current family if you're in the process of building one. I do feel, looking at this, there's quite a distinct difference between your soul family and the family that you were born into. There's quite a different energy. So that suggests to me that you either made a choice or not, and we will ask the divination coin that, but that there was something different to learn in this life. But I do think that there is a connection between the two. And I think it connects with the soulmate pathway that is connected to your current family. Now, soulmates are interesting because it doesn't necessarily mean the soulmate is part of your soul family. It may be that it is actually different and it's a karmic sort of connection that is needed to move something through. But I don't feel like the soulmate is in your current family. I think it's accessed via your current family. So there's something to do with the life that you were born into or the life that you are creating. So for some of you, this may be a family with your soulmate, but if so, there's some interesting energy to work out. I do think for most of you, this is more what you're born into, and this is what you're journeying towards. And there's a connection there. But over here, there is a different sort of energy. It's more like the connection is already there. So I feel that most of the people who've come to this reading, part of the issue around this is that there is a soulmate, a divine union, something like that, where the going into the difference is necessary to reconnect. Now, that could be, if it's, say, a divine union, that in fact it is 2 parts of a soul that come from the one soul family, but one has been more disconnected, say, than you. You feel very connected to your soul family, but you're in a different environment now, and it's almost like you're on a mission, and I'll get to this, that you've got to be a bit quiet about because it wouldn't necessarily be understood where you are or where you were born. But that's a possibility about a divine union coming from the same soul family. It may also be a soulmate more on the sense of a lot of karma and connection and a lot of love, but they're from 2 different families. And there's almost on that level a Romeo and Juliet type feeling to this energy with the sort of secrecy and so forth over here. So let me go through this in a little bit more detail, but that's the first imprint I got from this, that you were born into and or are creating a different family to that which is your soul family. And let's compare and talk about why. The energy that you were drawn to was sisterhood. And so that energy is about connection. It's about what is similar. It's about family on a very core level. So it does make sense as a a linchpin for a soul family. It's one of the reasons that I intuitively chose this card to be one of the representations. But there's a real sense of connection. The interesting thing with sisterhood is it feels like family connection rather than, as I say, love connection. So there may be for you very much a sense that love is connecting across soul families and finding the bridge across soul families, because within your soul family there is a great deal of harmony. As a result of that, there is sort of like radical curiosity. Your soul family likes to go out and try something different. It's another reason why I think you may have chosen to go into this, or there might have been an idea from your soul family that that's the best way to grow and learn, is to go into something different. So it says with radical curiosity, seeing as if for the first time every time. So I feel like there's something about your soul family that is so strongly connected on a spiritual level that it can voyage forth. There is a sense of almost voyaging, as I say, for your soul family. They like to see themselves in different places to learn things, and it is about curiosity. The connection is so strong spiritually to the group, plus through the curiosity there's a broader connection. So I think there is a essence in your soul family about finding harmony with others, and it's very much in the world and helping to bring balance into the world. So it has the sense of a soul family that's a bit like, Christopher Columbus going out and discovering the new world, or sort of scientists that really look into the new and so forth. There's a sense of that, like, what do we bring into the world? And I think that many people in your soul family in their lives become quite prominent, and you are probably meant to as well with the 10th house there. There's something about this, I will go into what is different, that actually, and help to find balance within that. So it's a very healing thing here. But it is really interesting when we get to what do you learn and what do you teach, because I think it's a bit of both. I think there is a genuine curiosity, a genuine issue of moving forth, and then, in the sort of unmanifest, in the liminal space, coming back together and being together. So it just feels like a very traveling type of energy, but because the connection is so strong, and because it is connecting earth and the spiritual. And with Metatron, he is the archangel of Keter. So basically Keter is the highest level of the Kabbalah, the divine essence, but he rules over Malkuth, which is the earth. So there is a sense of, as well as Keter, he has that connection. There is a sense of grounding this energy, finding out what the world has to show. I wouldn't be surprised actually if your soul family also sees itself across different sort of extraterrestrial or interdimensional areas. It's just a sense of the traveler, the curious, I want to try what is different, I want to bring things into balance, I want to know, I want to understand. And in this life, you probably are a lot about that, about bringing balance and understanding and finding the middle road between alternative viewpoints and so forth. So that's the energy that's there. The energy, however, of what you were born into seems like it has made you have to be quite quiet about this. The fact that we've got secrecy. So the connection in the soul family is like, yes, we're connected, we're sisters or brothers, we are connected, that's all very good. But over here, it's like something is secret, and we have inner life with Gabriel, the divine messenger, and Chiron healing. So I feel like in this life, you went into a family that had a lot of secrets, that didn't necessarily needed to bring some stuff up for healing, that had almost the exact opposite reaction to your soul family, which is to explore, to find balance, and in a sense to be accepting. This family looks like it is very, very much like stuck in a particular viewpoint, needs to heal because it isn't open to difference. And so you went within, very much within. You very much connected using Gabriel and then I think Metatron to your soul family and to your spirit team. Very much have a rich inner life because of it. But there's some healing that is difficult in this family because of the secrets. It's the secrets. In fact, it may be a family that thought it was right and didn't need to heal, and may have thought you needed to heal or there was something wrong with you. There's just an energy here where your curiosity was almost stopped. And it doesn't mean that there wasn't love or caring. It's just that it's a very deep wounding that is hidden and not spoken about. So you had to sort of go within. But for some reason, going through this process and seeing it has something to do with the soulmate, because your spirit is looking for balance, but in this life you are looking for your soulmate. So I think there is some healing, and there is almost, as I say, why I say almost a Romeo and Juliet sort of feeling. It's like the energies are so different that even finding the love could be sort of something your family wouldn't understand, but your soul family would understand. So I feel it is different. I feel that you are in a different sort of family, or you have created one. But if you've created one with this energy, then it's very, very important to bring this curiosity into it, to not push those sort of energies into the background for whatever reason, to fit in and so forth, because that will not heal the energy. There is some healing that needs to be done. Okay, so let's move to the tarot. But before we do that, we're going to use the coin and we're going to ask whether or not, and I'm going to throw this off camera because otherwise I'll probably break the camera, whether or not you chose this, or whether or not, so if the answer is yes, we know you chose. We may ask secondly, if the answer is no, whether your soul family chose it for you. So that, or whether it was a bigger sweep of fate if the answer is no to that. So firstly, whether or not you chose it. Yes, okay. So we know that you chose it. And it doesn't really surprise me in a way. Did you see that? It was definitely yes. I'm not sure whether that came up on camera. You definitely chose, and that makes sense because I feel that's the nature of your family. It does actually choose to go out into what is different. It's almost deliberate. So, and I think that is a very strong sort of spiritual thing to heal other things and to bring things into balance. So let's use the tarot. So we're firstly going to ask, given that you did choose, what is the key sort of reason for that? Why would you have chosen to go into this particular family dynamic, which seems to be more shut down and secretive rather than curious and expansive? Okay, so we've got all, it's very interesting that all came up reversed because that's exactly the energy of this. This all feels suppressed and hidden, not necessarily bad, but under the carpet. There is something to do with bringing hope out and bringing nurturing out where there isn't things being spoken that should be spoken. So, and you have the wisdom to do it. With the Fool reversed, I always feel with the Fool that when it is reversed, it's sort of after one cycle, it's the Fool has learnt something. This is not your first trip into something different. This is the nature of your spirit family, your soul family, is to be explorers and to conquer new lands and to learn and to bring things into balance. So you have the wisdom to do that, the wisdom to stay silent when you need to, but the wisdom also to understand what needs to be healed. So there's something that you are bringing in terms of wisdom to that to shift some of this more suppressed energy. I think it's also the wisdom to bring in the soulmate and that kind of thing. But you first there needs to be healing in this birth family by the looks of things. Or as I say, if you're with your soulmate, there's something that needs to be cleared, energy maybe for your children where making sure that they feel that they can be true to who they are and have curiosity and so forth is important. But you're bringing wisdom in. And you're bringing it into an environment quite consciously where what is being spoken is not what is really happening. So you're bringing this spirit into a family that needs to not be so rigid. There's some issue around the mother with this, with the Empress reversed. So you may have found it difficult to connect to your mother. You may have felt like your mother was particularly withdrawn. It may be the mother in this that really needed the healing. So that's important. The mother may also have had an issue with who you wanted to love and so forth with the soul twin. There's something about nurturing energy, or it could just be that because of the silence that's in this family, there wasn't a sense of nurturing. It was all suppressed and so forth. And you with the Four of Swords reversed were the truth seeker, the truth speaker, the person who brought some of that out. Because of course, if there is a wound that is being hidden, the only way it can be resolved is to take it from the inner life and the divine sort of messaging from Gabriel and bring it to the surface. So part of what you were doing was to do that because there was a lot of potential here. The thing I feel is that this is just, you were born into a family where there were people with lots of wounds and lots of secrets. So you needed to bring the energy of hope and exploration into this environment, and you have the wisdom and the capacity to do it. I actually am getting that that's who you are to some degree. Quite apart from your soul family, you're probably one of the key ones. If the soul family was to getting together and deciding, well, who can we help? Who can we help heal? You'd be the one that would be sent out for this sort of energy because you are able to bring things to the surface. You are able to do it in a way that has wisdom and brings it almost spiritually. It almost feels like spiritually you help to move this rather than confronting it on an intellectual level. Because your soul family as a whole really likes to do things in the world, really likes to be seen in the world. It's like you are able to go into environments where things are more hidden and bring things to the surface. So that's interesting. So let's ask what you learn in this exploration, what your radical curiosity gets to learn in this experience with this family. And then we'll look at what they learn from you. So firstly, what do you learn? So this is partly about learning about the heart and what is really ideal for the heart for you. And it's interesting we've got the world. There is definitely for you something to do with this family and environment, whether it's immediately apparent at the moment or whether it only becomes apparent once it happens. There is something about this that brings you that sort of soul connection, soul mate connection, and clears out emotional energy that was not working for you. And with the sun reversed, you are meant to learn how to rise up in that scenario. It's meant to be different. So you learn what it is to be in an environment where the sunshine, the truth is hidden. Because there's something about that helps you complete the cycle with the soulmate and reverse any kind of emotional energy that wasn't working, bring it into an ideal and work out what is real. There's actually a really core sense of this, Pile 1, about knowing what is real as opposed to what is spoken, because underneath in the healing, that is what is real. So you are meant to learn how to let go sometimes where you can't shift stuff and understand what options are the right ones for you emotionally to complete a cycle and so forth. I feel also in your family, as I say, you're uniquely placed to go and deal with this, but it's sort of like, what can happen, they say, if you have a hammer, all you ever see is a nail. There is something there also about learning what is worth taking from that environment and maybe what is worth completing. And I feel that's where the soulmate comes in, to sort of draw you towards something that is more happy out of this at the end. So you're learning about how to complete things, to bring the soulmate in and to decide what emotions are worthwhile. What do your 3D family learn from you? Wow, okay. So firstly, they learn how to be more generous and more sort of giving and more reciprocal and to get over all the drama. There's a lot of drama here for some reason. So you are bringing a learning that says that you can do things materially, particularly with the King of Pentacles, Knight of Pentacles and Six of Pentacles, in a way that grows, that is healthy, that is stable and is committed. But it's about clearing out the drama. So again, you feel like the truth teller. And look, often when that's the case in a birth family, it's not going to happen when you're growing up. It's more likely to happen as you're older. If this is in your family that you're going into, it's shifting something dramatic, something painful. And I suspect if that's the case, your partner is your soulmate and you have been healing them to bring that to the surface and get the inner guidance so that there is something very stable, very secure coming out of it. So as I say, it depends on what family you're looking at there. But you are teaching them to let go of a burden. There's a burden associated with this secrecy. It's exhausting. So you're helping them see how to be a little bit more healthy, a little bit more balanced, and that I am balance, particularly with the Six of Pentacles. The material world as well too. It's interesting. I feel of all your family, you're likely to be the most successful in the long term. And I think you may teach your family a bit about what it is, all that 10th house energy, to be successful in the world and to be dedicated to that on a material level and to see the experience in the world as being valuable. Because it almost feels like with all of this, it's like, oh, life's too hard and what's all this about? And it's all a burden. Whereas you can actually take this energy of once you bring curiosity and you bring things to the surface, then you can actually get a real outcome. There is something to do here. We are in the material world for a reason, is the sort of feeling that is coming off that. So I think that you do a lot of healing. You're drawn to this family because it needs healing, and that's part of what you do. But you're also healing yourself in as much as going through the experience of this secrecy and this shutting down and then finding the way to lift out of that on a very material level teaching them and also what you learn, it actually helps you feel more stable, balanced and so forth within yourself. Okay, so let's have a look at what past life connections there might be. And I think this will be interesting because I do think, at least with the soulmate, whether, as I say, I think the soulmate is someone either that is in a current relationship with you now or one coming in where you're going to be processing some of these issues. If that's the case, I feel like there's maybe an impediment to the relationship at first, some secrets around it that need to be sorted through. But if this is your birth family, then I think there's some sort of connection around what you do with them that brings in this person. But I would feel that there is also past life connection with them to some degree. The one caveat I would put on that is because of the radical curiosity, it may be that you go into completely new environments all the time. But I feel like there's something in here where there's a connection. I feel like for most of you there are some past life connections that are related to this. So we're just going to get some general past life energies to see what Spirit wants to talk about. Angelic. Polynesian. Butler, maid, servant. That's interesting. Native Indigenous. Traveller. Yeah, see, this is your soul family. Traveller, gypsy, nomad. I almost said gypsy around this, on that kind of energy of sort of like moving between lives. And that would suggest to me that there's someone, either your soulmate or someone connected maybe in the extended family that is also from your soul family. So I think maybe there's almost a kind of a sister or brother, whatever energy you identify with, energy coming through. So there is maybe at least someone, but I would say it's more in the extended family. And your traveling energy, your spirit family's traveling energy is part of like what has connected you to these people. There does look like there's sort of like, some sort of lives in sort of native or sort of Polynesian sort of areas. So it's possible that you've shared lives with one or more of the people around that. This is showing very much the connection of Metatron and Gabriel. So there is a very deep spiritual connection. This is why I think you go into these places where there are connections and lives that allow for that. But I do think that there's a power issue. This is what's interesting. When I said butler, maid, servant coming up, to me that suggests that at least in one past life with one or more of the people in this soul family, there may have been a power issue. And it's interesting that your soul family has the 10th house. I actually suspect that you were maybe more of a sort of like a aristocratic, like somebody who had made it in the material world, and they may have spent lives being more in the sort of service type of area. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I do think it's interesting that part of what you're bringing to them is how to manifest. So I think there's almost maybe with at least one or more people in the connection, a sort of sense about once they may have been working for you or something like that. And this time around, you're wanting to bring out who they really are so that they manifest, so that they can be who they want to be and so forth, and really establish themselves. So that's interesting. Let's have a look at the spiritual connections between you. So I'm just going to draw from different decks to get a sense of the energy. So it's going to be you and your soul and your current family. So your energy and what comes off your soul family and your current family for each of these. So firstly, looking at the Mists of Avalon deck, so kind of Arthurian energies. And you could have a connection to something like this, or it just might be what these cards are talking about. The Mists of Avalon. Okay. Yeah, all right. So the Mists of Avalon card itself is all about the sort of boundaries, the journey, the looking out and finding out what is true and what isn't true, transformative sort of energy. So you are bringing that kind of energy, the sort of like, let's part the mists, as this card, the person, the witch there is kind of doing, or the Lady of Avalon is kind of doing. So it's like the explorer energy is what you are bringing to this. You are trying to break them out of patterns and secrets that are not working for them. And over here, for them, they are receiving that as power. And being able to move into their own sovereignty with the Excalibur, it is the thing that created the king. So this is shifting them is to this King of Pentacles energy, creating in them a sense of power that takes them away from the secrets and what is hidden. So you are definitely meant to help your family in one way or the other manifest better. And of course, then that's going to be their choice as to whether or not they take that energy and they move out of the secrets and the hidden side of this and do the healing they need. But there are certainly new ways of thinking that you're bringing in with Excalibur, power coming in with Excalibur. Because you know from your traveling and so forth, you know, in a sense, we just go, it's a flow. We build and we grow. Let's have a look also at, from the Mystic Martian Oracle, something around sort of interdimensional or power energies on another level between your soul energy that you're bringing in and your family, what you're bringing to your family. Okay, Nephilim, wow. And the tall sentients, I might not be pronouncing that correctly, tall sentients. So that's very interesting because the Nephilim, of course, are a little bit controversial. You know, some people don't see them as good. But the thing that is interesting is that they are the offspring of angels or angelic or higher order beings supposedly mating with humans. So there is that sense of bringing, you know, the seed of life into a new world, which fits with the explorative sense of your soul family. I would say your soul family have very strong connections to angelic realms and so forth. But again, bringing it into the world and discovering the world, I think, is the energy. Whereas over here, the tall sentients, they're interesting because they're connected to the Pleiades, which is a very positive sort of energy. So there's nothing really wrong with this group, but this group feels a bit victimized and feels like it's carrying a lot of wounding. So I think this gives us another element or layer to this. The wounding that you want to heal is not because of something that they've necessarily generated, but maybe generational karma, generational sort of issues that have made them feel like they have to hide. So this is more a fear response. Even if you experienced it as something when you were young where you were told not to talk, for instance, it's coming from a fear response and from a feeling of victimization. So Nephilim is all about strength, and I think it's bringing the strength to a family or a group of people that need to be healed in some way because they have felt that they were victimized. And they may well have been, and as I say, they may well have been oppressed in some way as well. Also with Indigenous sort of thing, that a lot of Indigenous tribes have been the victim to, you know, colonization and so forth. So there's some energy about that you're actually helping them shift through spiritually. Let's also have a look at ancient Egyptian sort of influences as well. Akashic Records, Tahuti, and Geb, earthly focus. Yeah, see, okay. So your family, very, very old. Your spiritual family are very, very old. This is being sort of very much brought home. And you have a very strong sense about your sort of karma and your history and your Akashic record. It would be the stories of explorers. That's what it would say in there. So there's a real sense of connectedness and how this goes and how you bring things into balance and all of that kind of energy. And the scribe Metatron watches over the Akashic record, so that makes sense. But it's about an earthly focus because we've got Geb here, which is there's Nuit, which is the sky, and Geb, which is the earth. So basically there is something about earthing all of this. Earthing the energy, the pentacles energy, your free spirit and your sense that you can make the best of things and explore it is coming up against a group of people you've been born into who either in this life or in other lives have felt victimized and have shut everything down. So you're showing them through earthly endeavors in one way or another how to heal. Or that's the potential, even if that hasn't occurred yet. Okay, so let's have a look at the soul development for each, because this does feel very much like you helping them, but you're also there to have a soul development for yourself. So as I said, we're going to use the Runic Odyssey Oracle, and then I'm going to use astrology or numerology to sort of see what is the soul development pathway for you coming from your soul family and for the family that you've been born into. Firstly, with the Runic Oracle, so sort of the sense of change and fortune that you're dealing with, and then we'll have a look at what astrology and numerology has to say about it. So, for you, we have waxing gibbous moon. So we're picking up, rather than a rune energy, we're picking up a moon energy, which is included in this deck. So this is about refining and improving. You know, getting everything in the way that you want it, learning from it. So this is this radical curiosity. This is the energy that you're bringing in. It's like, I can always get better. I can always learn more. That's the feeling of your soul family. They're not afraid of getting things wrong. They're just going to work it out, and they'll work it out as they go along. For the energy, soul development energy for your current family, we have Laguz, which is intuition and evolution. So they are meant to become, and this is why we had the inner life, this is why we had Gabriel, they are meant to be able to go within a little bit more and understand how to bring things out into the material world, how to make their intuition work for them. This is what their path is. And your role in it is showing them that it's okay to be wrong sometimes. That you don't, see, part of what's making the issue in your family is that the secrecy is there, because it's like, oh, if we get anything wrong, then we're on the wrong path and so forth. That means we're lesser. You're coming in to show it's okay. You can try things out. You can be different. You are a curative property within your family because you are more comfortable with change, and your soul development is always evolving. They need to come into their own intuition and understand this a bit and be a bit more in comfort with that. Okay, I'm going to get a couple of astrology or numerology energies as well for this comparison. So fire and square. We'll have a look at the planets around the square. And for your current life family or birth family, whichever you're focusing on, new moon. Yeah, they need to bring in new ways of doing things. Definitely. They need to shift. And Pisces, and use they're very spiritually attuned. Like, I think you come from different soul families, but I think they are very spiritually attuned. It's not that they aren't, but it's like they've kind of put it all into the depths. It's like they're Persephone and they've gone into Hades and they haven't come out. When springtime comes, it's sort of like you're helping them to come out and be in the material world. Let's have a look at the square energy as well, and then I'll talk in general, but I just want to see what planets we've got around the square for your soul family. So I'm just going to deal out till I get 2 planets. Jupiter. There's the sort of sense of luck and being able to sort of go out and explore. Jupiter and the sun. Yeah, so the interesting thing actually about this is that square energy is action. So there is certainly an action. There is that explorative, optimistic sort of sense is how your soul family and you become more and more who you are and how you follow your life path. And that happiness to let yourself be wrong sometimes and to evolve. That's all there. But the other thing around that, however, is that sometimes it's potentially that if Jupiter overrides the sun for your soul family, there could be a sense of the soul family and the broader thing becomes more important than the individual. And if the sun gets more important in an incarnation, then that kind of connection to the broader benefic sort of energy could get out of whack. So this is why we had I am balance right at the center. Your soul family very much is concerned about that, so they're not going to put you into, you chose in this case in any way, or they help choose with you, but you're not going to go into environments that are likely to get this out of balance, because it is a dynamic tension, and it would be a natural dynamic tension for this type of energy between the broader exploration and the helping and the healing of others and who the individual is. It's the tension of a soul family compared to an individual soul, because there's a lot of fiery, explorative, dramatic, creative energy in this soul family. So it's how you keep that in balance. Over here, as I say, the evolutionary path which they're on is about getting more in touch with their emotions, more in touch with their inner knowing, understanding the dynamic that's going on rather than hiding it away and pretending it isn't there. This is a sort of family, because you are likely to help them in one way or another to be more abundant or to understand the material world better and to move out of that victim consciousness, that could suppress all that and say, this is all because of, the politics of the day or this or that or the other, rather than taking personal responsibility. This is getting back into their inner knowing so that they can evolve and use their intuition to help them understand what you've come in to show them. Okay, so to finish off, we're going to draw 2 soul cards. So this is a deck that doesn't have specific meanings, but it has evocative imagery. And I will tell you what I think. I suggest you pause the video and think about it for yourself. So we're going to have one energy, overarching energy from your soul family, and then one around the family that you were born in or that you're creating at the moment. Oops. And one flew out, so I'm just going to pause the video to pick it up. Okay, so I think that's your soul family, and then we will pick one for your current family. Okay. So your soul family operates through the angelic sort of energy, the angelic sort of, the Nephilim, all that sort of colouring. Your soul family is very much in the esoteric and very much sort of like goes out, goes forth. You can sort of see it. Here's a sort of very calm, spiritual, connected sisterhood sort of energy. I feel a very strong connection between those two cards. And then going forth with a clear idea, an understanding about, the eye knows where it is going, but it goes forth, it goes out. So this is what, and I think then you return. So I think this is the energy. It's sort of always sort of exploring and then coming back to home base and then exploring around it. So that's the energy of your soul family, I think. But there's a lot of wisdom and it's very esoteric. There's a very esoteric feeling to this. Very advanced soul family, I think. Over here, it's interesting because this is all about grounding and we have much more earthy colours and, green and brown and yellow, this sort of sense of the earth and the creation and so forth. And I feel like this is your soul family standing a little bit separate, a little bit alone, keeping themselves alone. But there is an energy of warmth to potentially draw this in. So I think it is very much that there are real lessons for your soul family at the moment around bringing things into being. And I think also this could be an indication of your soulmate as well, that there is something about coming into union, making that occur, even if maybe it's very different again to what your family is and different to what your soul family. But there's something about the other here, but the other in the earth, in the world. So I hope that resonates for you. I do think you are very well placed to do what is necessary for your development and to help the development of your current family. Your soul family is a very interesting soul family, but it's not necessarily easy. And I do think that there is sort of something about the key thing here is bringing things into material being, your soulmate and your family seeing what can be done. I just think that you will be likely to go further or do better than your family. And they will learn from that, even if it's the next life that they then manifest that themselves. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 1. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So these cards here are meant to represent some of the energies around your soul family. And then these are the current, like your family of birth, origin, if that's what you are sort of concentrating on, or potentially if you're in the process of building a current family, it could pick up that as well, or other than your birth family, whichever the energies sort of fit with. It's interesting. I actually think, looking at this, there is actually quite a significant connection between your soul family and that family that you were born into and or that you're creating. And I think it's because your soul family is trying to heal something within. It's very interesting that if you chose this because of reconciliation, because that energy to me suggests that there is some rift within the soul family that needs to be healed. That's a prime motivator around the soul family itself. And how I'm reading this is sort of like it's an overarching thing, but then comparing the energies for each of these to sort of see what sort of synergies there are. And there's a lot of synergy. But as I say, it feels like there's a lot of capacity for love, goodwill, connection and all that, but something that needs to be healed, something, karmically that's occurred, or even potentially on some other dimensional level, because we've got reconciliation here in terms of what your soul family is trying to do, bring itself back together, find how to heal something that was hurt. But over here in the experience of what you're having with your 3D family is games. So it suggests that some of that energy is still there. It feels like sort of, one of those sort of movies about sort of big families where there's all sorts of intrigue within them, almost like an Agatha Christie novel or something. That feels like how it's operating. So in the 3D level, and particularly with masquerade as opposed to creativity, there's something very dramatic, creative, inspiring about your soul family. And I think what happens with that is sometimes that energy, when it comes out of the pure level where it's trying to come together and heal, it moves into almost a a drama, a game, and so forth, where you can get distorted perceptions, because here in the healing process, your soul family is trying to respond and not react. So there's been some sort of big thing that's occurred, and it's probably occurred in the material world for some reason, like you've been on opposite sides of some sort of war or something, or political intrigue in a medieval court or something like that. There's that kind of energy around it which is still playing out. It has to play out here because the energy towards reconciliation can only go so far here. It has to manifest in the real world to fully heal. And there is love there. But there's a thing about self-esteem and distorted perceptions operating. So it's like something to do with whatever this rift was you're trying to sort out in this current thing. But I would say that in your birth family or in the family that you're in, there is sort of issues around how much people can feel that they are themselves. What's the self-esteem? Are there games operating? It's also possible that there's one or more wild cards in the family that aren't of the soul family that are stirring some of this up. So while you're trying to heal and you've possibly incarnated with 2 or 3 people from your soul family, there may even be external sort of energies sort of from other soul families or whatever that are kind of causing a difficulty here and getting in the way of the love and the capacity to rebuild the self-esteem. So, but I do think that there are people from your soul family there. You are trying to heal this. You are trying to reconcile. And there's a great deal of benefic energy from your soul family, but it's like it's looking for a miracle. It's looking for creating it in the 3D level, because I feel like this can't be fully reconciled outside of the 3D. There's something that has to manifest over here. So maybe, circumstances in a life, did cause a big rift between you and some of the people that you were closest to in your soul family. And it was to do with creativity. It was to do with how you wanted to express yourself, your self-esteem and so forth. So for some of you, you may have come in with enormous creative ability, but you feel in the environment you're in that you can't ever express it, that it's being played against you. Hard to understand what's going on in this environment. Why do you feel like there's mind games all the time? Yet there is genuine love there, but it's like, is it love with everybody in the family, or is there 1 or 2 wild cards, as I say, causing a problem? So it's actually got a feeling as well of those sort of, stories where 2 people are, meant to be together in terms of love, or, family is very happy, and then somebody comes in and deliberately stirs everything up. So it has that sense. It's like, I feel like it's rival soul families. I know this sounds really strange, but rival soul families, and it has been a rift caused within your soul family, and a rift caused in the kind of like benefic sort of creativity, and it's become more like a game that's played out here because of the other people. So I think it's a bit of a mix. I suspect within your sort of day-to-day family that there are almost factions that operate, and at least one person who's a mind game player who's probably not of your soul family but has been around. There's some very interesting karma around this. And so one of the things for you in this life is to get past any distorted perceptions, to get back to the love, to that sense, to the reconciliation, which is what your soul family is trying to create. So let's get to whether or not you chose this, and then what is meant to manifest out of this particular life and this particular family and so forth. So I have a coin, which is from the Runic Odyssey Oracle, as I said in the introduction, the yes, no. So I'm going to flip this off camera, and I'm going to ask whether or not you chose, or your soul family chose in collaboration with you, for you to come to this family. If the answer is yes, we have the answer. If the answer is no, I'll ask whether or not it was your soul family rather than you. So we'll just try and work out where this impetus to be in this scenario was. So firstly, did you choose? Yes. Okay. So it's interesting. 2 yeses in a row so far with the readings. Maybe we always choose. I'm not sure about that particular issue, but we've got yes at the moment. So you did choose. So there's something here you want to sort out. I think you don't want to have this game anymore, and you don't want to be in this masquerade anymore. You want to kind of get back to the self-esteem and blow that kind of energy out so that reconciliation can occur. So let's see with tarot. The first question is, therefore, you've chosen, why did you choose to do this? A little bit more energy about what this life in this family, or as I say, birth family and also potentially creative family, what did you choose? Why did you choose to do this? Okay. So I'm feeling like you're this character in the reconciliation card. I feel like you have a very strong degree of spiritual attunement, very strong degree of spiritual and emotional awareness, and a lot of balance. So if anybody could break this karma, it's you. And that's why you're going into this environment. You want to bring the heart back. You want to bring Venus back. You want to break out of a mental prison, these games. And it's like, as I say, a feud, almost like spiritual family feud that's been going on for quite some time and quite a number of lives, I would say. You want to break out of that because you know that it's staying stuck in this pattern where the reconciliation can't occur, where at best you react rather than respond. You're not really kind of connecting to what's coming out of it. And you want to open up the Jupiter energy, the Venus energy with the Ace of Cups. But you know it's a mental prison. So you're coming in with sort of spiritual knowing and with the capacity to balance that better. So you would be, within this scenario, the person who would ultimately bring the stuff to the surface and balance it and bring the self-esteem and the love to the surface. But you are up against a formidable, not necessarily enemy, but a formidable opponent in this, and you know that. You know how, and I think that you may have gone through this before. Part of your learning and why you're at this point where you can potentially break this at this point is because you've been trapped in that sort of mental mind game as well. So you want to get back to the heart. And this is going into this environment and living that, and then finding self-esteem in the heart in that is the pattern that you are meant to get to. And it's your spiritual knowing that is part of this. So let's see what you can learn from this situation. So this is firstly, what are you learning from being in this family? Then we're going to ask what they can learn from you. So firstly, what can you learn from being in this family? Okay. So you can learn that ultimately to break this karmic cycle, sometimes you have to crash through or crash. You have to liberate. So for some of you, the way to deal with this is ultimately going to be to walk away from it. For some of you, say this was your birth family and there was just a lot of games and you could sense some love underneath it, but it was all very distorted. The only way that you can really close this out, because it isn't closed out at this point, is to just crash through or crash and walk away. And heal, allow yourself to heal. So this feels like it's a situation of I'm not going to go around this particular merry-go-round again. I'm just going to deal with it this time. What I learned from this is that not everything can be healed. Not every rift can be healed. The important thing is to connect back to my soul family, not to try and extend it with people that are not on the same sort of spiritual level and so forth. So you're learning sometimes you have to burn it all before you and free yourself. That's the way to reconnect back to your soul family. And I think it may be hard for you because you understood, I think, at some point, this is why you went into this, you understood there was a mental prison. And I think this lifetime round, you're going to realize the only way to really come out of that and to get back to the heart is to go to your self-esteem and your love and disconnect from anything that can't be healed. There's something a bit sort of just oppositional in the energy of what you've been born into. There's at least one or more people in your family who are not from your soul family, and they are tricksters around all of this. They don't like people much. They don't like the idea of love. They don't like the idea of family. They just like to play games. And I think this is for you to sort of realize not everybody is salvageable. So let's see what you can teach them as you do this sort of crash through or crash type of feeling around it. You teach them that these sort of mental games and manipulation and so forth might sort of like suit them to do it, and it might be their natural go-to, but it always ends up in conflict and they never really work out what they want. There's sort of like, as I say, there's a misanthropic sort of feeling coming off this with at least one person. And it may be sort of something that permeates the family quite a bit. But it's because it's become a game of being clever and smarter and so forth and not valuing the heart that the conflict is always there. I think your capacity ultimately to walk away from it is the thing that shows them that or teaches them that. Now, I don't have a lot of confidence that it shifts them in this life, but it is an energy I think that they could take and understand and learn from. Because somewhere within they do want to get to the love. They've just gone into their head instead. It's all just a mental game and it's distorted. So, and as I say, it doesn't have to be all the family. You could have actually incarnated with some of your family, and it may be that part of this escape is to take them with you, to pick them up and take them with you, but that cause the rift that's necessary because there's something not connecting. And that may teach them something about the collateral damage that comes from that kind of mind game all the time and so forth, and help them to shift out of it. Fives do allow a shift to the next. That becomes more like peace of mind with the Six of Swords. This becomes more like victory with the Five of Swords. But it could teach them that victory and keeping on with what they're doing is at the cost of their heart. So, and there is a heart there. It's just the mind has taken over. Okay, so very interesting. So I definitely think there's some karma around all of this. There's something that's trying to be fixed, but I do feel like in the end you may just have to walk away from it and say, I can't reconcile everything. Your natural soul family, because it's had its own rift, wants to heal everybody, but it may be that you have to set some priorities and only heal those that are connected to you. So let's have a look at what some of the past life karma might have been between you and your current family to see if we can get any more information on this energy. Okay, Starseed. Okay, all right. I would say that somebody in your family maybe picks up this energy, feminine widowed, maybe lost love at some point and they kind of withdrew. They became quite cool and cold as a result of it. They didn't want to feel that anymore. They shut their heart down. And so it sort of came in. Yeah, and it could even have been widowed as a result of some sort of battle. You know, as I say, I get the sense that both within your soul family and also within some of the people that are in your current family, there's a sense of almost being in battle, in war on some level. And there were losses associated with that, I think. So there's a grudge energy here. May have happened in one of these two cultures potentially, or there just may have been sort of people coming from those different cultures into your current family. There's also starseed connection, so the family, it may even be part of some sort of intergalactic war as well. It'll be interesting. We are going to use the Mystic Martian Oracle a little bit later to sort of compare the energy, so it'll be interesting to see if something comes up around that. But I just feel like this says that there's some sort of battle, and I think that where this distorted energy has come from is where one or more people have lost. They have had genuine grief. That's why there's genuine love there, but it's suppressed because it's kind of like, well, if I can't have love, I'm just going to win, is sort of the energy that's coming from this, coming through karmically. And I feel like for most of you, you're probably not going to be able to break through that. They're going to have to do that themselves. That's why you're going to sort of pick up your people and move, you know, to close out some of this energy, because it's not really your battle and it's not really your fault. But this energy towards wanting to reconcile and find the miracle. So your soul family's eternally optimistic, even though I think that it has had its own rifts. It believes, you know, that you can actually bring the good back in, and there is something there. But I think for many of you, there's a bit of a lost cause with some of the people around this. Okay, let's have a look at the spiritual connections, as I said. So firstly, we're going to have a look at Miss of Avalon, so sort of almost Arthurian energies. You could have had that kind of mythology between you. You don't have to. I'm just looking at different things here, different cultures, different elements to get a little bit more information about you now and then your family, your 3D family. So for you, we have the Isle of Avalon. Okay. And for your family that you're with or that you grew up with, Morgan Le Fay. Okay, all right. There you go. So for you, this is all about, the Isle of Avalon was a place of healing. It was where Arthur went to heal after these sort of issues, or after Camelot fell and so forth. It is about renewal. It's about resurrection. It's mysterious and so forth. So there's this very much this miracle caring energy around you and what you're bringing into this. You really want to be able to break through that and renew and to revive and to heal. But over here with Morgan Le Fay, there is something prophetic and something powerful. These people are quite powerful spiritually. There's no doubt about it. But it's in an energy that is maybe not as, it's a bit shadowier. You know, Morgan was a little bit more shadow-like. You know, there's certainly magic around it. Fate, you were meant to connect with these people. There's a much longer karmic thing operating here. But they're living in a kind of a shadow, I want to be powerful energy. You're living in a, I want to heal and renew. This is why they have to get back to this. And I think they can, but I think that you're meant to learn that you're not responsible for everybody. That's the kind of feeling I'm getting from this. So let's have a look at, as I said, Mystic Martian. So this may pick up starseed sort of origins. It may pick up more ancient cultures and symbols and energies, but we'll just do a similar thing of you and your family. So for you, the pentagram, bringing everything into balance, harmony, protection, renewal, healing. For them, blue avians. Okay, so there's definitely, I think this is connecting here to starseed stuff. You may well have both originally come from that, or they may have been in the blue avian race and there may have been some sort of a battle with the origin of your soul family. But this is a very philosophical energy, and it's about releasing karma and so forth. And mysticism, there is a hope for them. I think you've gone in wanting to do that. I just think they've got to do it themselves. That's the message I get very strongly, because you're much more grounded with the pentagram here. You are about harmony and protection. It's almost as though maybe what's happening is that one of your soul family, this is why we've got the reconciliation, has kind of like connected up, you know, through love or through family things with this other energy, this other tribe, this other, and has potentially, that's what you're trying to rescue. And maybe you'll work out that you can, and maybe you'll work out that you can't. But there is a capacity there. They're not lacking in sort of spiritual growth, power, understanding, and so forth. Yeah, and they could get to it. They could get to it through their mind. They're just using their mind at the moment in a not positive way. If they could get to it in a way that opened up the heart, that would be different. But as I say, I keep getting the sense for most of you that they're going to have to do that themselves. If they do it, then in this life you may sort of have a reconciliation and a great deal of love and connection. But if not, it's like this is the time to see whether it's actually going to happen. Otherwise, you need to let it go. So let's get ancient Egyptian energy similarly. Satyrs, fertility and satisfaction. And Cobra, divine awakening. Yeah, for them, the miracle that your soul family likes to bring to things. Yeah, and the sort of Jupiterian energy, because it's sort of twice there, that sort of beneficence and healing and caring. That's what you want to bring, and fertility and satisfaction and so forth, bring in the sort of new, bring in a family that connects and is reconciled. But they need to access it themselves. Again, with Cobra, with divine awakening. I think that for most of you, you finally walking away from the drama is the thing that triggers them to go within. That's what this is all about. And until you go, no, I've had enough, it's like you're the divine rescuer all the time, whether it's to members of your soul family that go into this and get caught up in the drama, or whether it's to the other tribe that, you know, maybe you saw was hurt in some sort of a battle before and you're trying to sort of connect with and reconcile with. You have to be able to walk away. And it may be difficult for you because in some cases this may in fact be connected to the family that you create. So it may be with children and so forth, or with your partner, with fertility and satisfaction being part of this. So for some of you, that may be the case. Otherwise, it's like you want to be able to connect more and more with your family and create families and so forth going forward that are more reconciled. So yes, this is the, as I say, crash through or crash. It's either going to work out this time, or that kind of opportunity almost slips by and you need to move on with those that you do care about to connect back with your soul family. All right, so let's look at the soul development, therefore. So we're going to use the Runic Odyssey Oracle for an energy of sort of change or journey or fortune for you again and your family. and this is your 3D family, and then we're going to use some astrological and numerological energy as well too. So this is about the development path for each of you. So for you, we have Perthro, destiny, mystery. So this is why you're drawn to this. There is a mystery involved in all of this, and there is fate involved in all of this. You chose with the yes, but it was also destined. This is destined battles, destined things to work through. And so you understanding your fate and what is within your control and what isn't, I think, is part of your development path with this family. And for them, we have waning gibbous, which is about introspection. Yeah, they need to go within. They're all about the mind games. Their development is about starting to go within their own knowing and actually start to do something a bit more healthy, not so sort of mind gamey, as I say. So let's see around astrology or numerology energy for each of you. So firstly for you, around your soul development path this time around, particularly in relation to your family. Uranus. 5. Yeah, there's always going to be conflict. I'm sorry, there is conflict definitely in this. If you've come to the right reading, there's conflict that you have to work through. It is, and and to clear them potentially, they could, with those 2 5s, they could learn from you. They definitely could. You are a very positive energy for them if they take it on, but it's a revolutionary energy. This is the tower. This is the crash or crash. This is the time. It's going to either resolve this karma or you're going to move into a different cycle. Let's see around, and for some it may be some of your own soul family. Like, is the soul family going to reconcile or not? For others it will be you with others who are from a different soul family where there was a battle, and are you going to finally go through that or not? And if not, liberating yourself from that. For them, we have fixed, yeah, because they're really stuck. Okay, and Leo, because of ego, yeah. So the issue is, can they introspect enough to shift out of that fixed energy and for it not to be about ego? Leo's lovely as well too. It is loyal. If they could shift through that, there is a sort of energy of sort of creativity and self-esteem coming in. So it is possible, but they do need to go within to shift really fixed views and fixed values that seem to be about winning for them. So, okay, let's have a look. We're going to finalize with the Soul Cards Oracle. So we're going to pull a card to represent you again, and then a card to represent the sort of soul journey of your current 3D family, or the 3D family you were born into. These don't have set meanings. They're just very evocative images. So I'll tell you what I get. By all means, pause the video and contemplate them for yourself. So for you, and then for them, oh my goodness, going right back to the games and so forth. So you're climbing a hill here. You're really trying to achieve something, but it's very hard to find your way through it because of all the distorted perceptions and all that kind of thing that you're around. You are reaching towards the summit. You are reaching towards an outcome. And there is flexibility and I think speed in what you can do there. But I feel like it's a little bit unsure at this point. What's at the destination? What's at the top of the hill? So it's almost like you're doing it because you have to see. You have to see this time. Is it resolvable or not? If it's not, that's fine. You walk away. But if it is resolvable, you'll have really given it that last burst. It has a feeling almost of the 9 of Wands to me, of like being near the end of the marathon, almost there, and you're going to do it. This time around, you're going to work this out. It's either going to resolve or it's not, but you will know. For them over here, this is like not seeing what they need to see. This is why they need to go within. And it's almost as though there's a soul tribe or a soul energy around them that is blinding them. Like I feel like, even though this doesn't look like a malefic force, I feel like it may be protective. It might be protecting from pain and so forth, from the pain. It may have been like a spiritual energy that's come in to protect seeing too much because there's too much pain that needs to be sorted through, but there is a distorted perception that's coming. So you will either be able to, in a sense, placate that higher energy that you can bring the truth without the pain, or they will continue and have to go within and work it out themselves. So I hope that resonates, pile 2. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So these cards are meant to represent the energy of your soul family, and these cards here are meant to be the corresponding or the mirrored image of the family that either you were born into or that you create. And I actually think for quite a few of you it may be the family that you create because of the union card here, but it could be either. See what resonates for you. There is actually a very strong synergy between these two, I feel, though they manifest in different ways, but they manifest in ways that make sense between the sort of the interdimensional sort of numinous liminal space and then the material space here. So I feel that many of you incarnate with your soul family, or at least some members of your soul family. And definitely for some of you, you create connections, I think, between soul families through maybe a love relationship and through the sort of change, the growth that comes to both soul families as a result of that. So that's why I sort of feel, particularly with union here, and we have the creation energy here, that there is a sense that you come in with many of your soul family, but you also seek out similar soul families, you create unions, and you, by extension, it's like literally like marrying soul families. It's like extending the soul family in some way. It's part of what you do. So it's a positive sort of energy. If you feel that you were born into a family that didn't feel quite right to you, it may be that that's what makes you seek union and the metamorphosis that's required for that, so that you can get the right connections, the right soul family, and create larger soul families, as I say. But there's definitely a sort of sense of taking that energy towards creativity and towards extension and growth into good fortune, into things that you can value, things that are possessions and are material, but are also connected to your values, and completing something. So I think for many of you, you're completing something in this life that where you were, what family you were born into, or what family you create through a union, it's completing some sort of soul karmic cycle as well too. So divine unions, soulmates, that kind of thing could be operating. But why I think that there's a lot of similarity. So you either, as I say, are born into a family like it, or you create a family that either draws other soul family members in, or which, through union or through having children or whatever it might be, or you create this larger soul family, like it goes from a soul family to a soul community is almost the feeling I'm getting, is that there's a lot of synergy that makes sense between these, because how this is designed is to look at what differences there are or synergies between the similar oracle cards. So over here, you were potentially drawn to this because of creation. Your soul family has an energy towards creation, towards merging, towards bringing two or more together, and through making something more out of it. So there's a sense of lineage and a sense of generational growth, and something that is really positive, and that is created in the material world through union. So that energy towards creation, which looks like union if you see it, is actually manifest here. So there is a real sense that whether it's something that you choose in relationships as you grow, or whether it is literally in the connection of the people and who you came through with, there is a real synergy between the two. Here we have perspective. Your soul family looks at things with a long distance perspective. What is the longer term outcome? This is a sense of genealogy, the sense of expanding growth. What is good for the many? That kind of energy. And it comes here as metamorphosis. What do you change in this world? What do you change of yourself? What do you change in others? For some of you, it will be drawing in a different soul family, as I say, through a union or a love that is connected karmically, but which is to the benefit and the longer term perspective of the growth of both soul families and all the people involved. So there's very, very positive energy there. It's different archangels, but Gabriel here is connecting to intuition, to understanding the sort of spiritual side of what this sort of longer term perspective is. And Sandalphon allows that to be manifest in the real world, so on earth. So there's a very earthy energy here. Just as the second house, as I say, says that part of what you do with your current family or your birth family is to bring in the values and create something that is material out of it. Whereas, of course, what would make sense is the 12th house would be more, particularly with Gabriel here, more triggered in your soul family, separate to the material world, because it's at that liminal level. And a great deal of compassion brings good fortune. So that connection and compassion and understanding, bridging differences, creating unions, metamorphosizing relationships brings good fortune. So it feels like a very good distillation of kind of a manifestation energy. But your soul family understands that. It understands that things aren't just for today, they're for tomorrow. Your soul family is very much the sort of group that would care about the environment, would care about the sort of longer term political sort of structures, and resource sharing. What do we create for the future generations? Using intuition and a deeper sort of spiritual knowing and a great deal of compassion. How that comes out is being drawn to other soul family members or other soul families that are a good connection that help bring that into being in the world. So before we move to the tarot, we're going to use the yes/no coin that I mentioned in the introduction. And I'm going to just throw it off camera because I'm likely to smash the camera with it if I do it on camera. But this question is going to ask whether or not you chose to be in the family that you were born into in particular. And then we will, if the answer is yes, that's the answer. If the answer is no, we will ask whether your soul family chose. So we'll see whether it's your soul family, or fate that has brought you to this particular scenario. So firstly, I'm just tossing to see whether you chose. No. Okay. All right. So you didn't choose to do this. You might have been quite happy with the long-term perspective. Let's ask whether your soul family chose. Yes. Okay. So you might have gone a little bit reluctantly, even though it actually looks quite good, but I feel like your soul family wanted you. I think your soul family saw you as ideal for a connection that's going to extend the family. That's what it feels like. It feels a bit like medieval families that decided, to create marriages for the growth and beneficence and the good outcomes for the family, getting the dynasty going. There's a sense of that. So I do think this is picking up a connection that you're making in this life, not necessarily the union of, being born into a family with all your soul family, though you may well have had a few of your soul family around you, I think, in your birth family. But you didn't necessarily choose to do this. You've been sent out as an ambassador. I think that's the sort of feeling of it. But it doesn't mean that you're unhappy. It actually looks like it's quite positive. But since you didn't choose, since your soul family chose for you, what was the reason? Why did they choose to do this, or ask you to do this, so that you would go and create this good fortune and so forth? What's this all about? Okay. Interesting. One of the other readings had reconciliation as one of the core things for the soul family. I feel like there's an energy of that here. When I look at like the Three of Wands reversed, which is sort of like there's been some sort of a rift or a difference in the longer term perspective, in a way, of what your soul family is trying to do, what you're trying to do, what maybe this potential connection is trying to do. There is something that is being fixed, where maybe they tried before for this sort of connection with other elements of their soul family and another soul family. It didn't happen, but this really is an advantageous connection. So they want to kind of rewrite that and bring it very much into the material. And you look like you're very much poised to bring in the love and to also be able to make the material decisions to make it last. So of your soul family, you're a very key member who really does know how to connect with others and how to manifest in the material world. So again, I sort of feel like in a medieval sort of scenario where it's like, what's the advantageous marriage? There's almost that sort of sense. It's not as material as that, but it will manifest materially. But it's like, who is the best ambassador? Who is the best child in the family, in a sense, to go out and make the connection that connects two great families? That's the sort of sense around it. It's really interesting energy. But you were asked to do it, I think, because you do know how to make those connections and you do know how to manifest. You know how to bring in good fortune. I think that it's been tried before and not worked. So let's see what, therefore, you learn from the family that you're born into and or the family that you create. So I think on a soul level, as I say, you are the ideal person to do this, but I don't think you fully know it. I think your soul family see it in you and you don't really see it in you. You're going to learn through finding this right relationship, through potentially healing rifts and connecting people and changing energies within the family that you're in, and bringing up the fortunes of your family in some way, you're going to learn that you are the foundation for that. But you have your own self-doubts, and this is, you were kind of putting this to prove a point, I think. I think like your soul family with the sort of longer distance perspective could see something in you that you don't see in you. So this is about you releasing some of that internal debate about love. It may well be that you have a very loving, compassionate nature that should manifest, but maybe your last life that didn't happen, and you have a bit of doubt about this. So some of the reason that you were put into this family and then to create, I think, a family further down the track was for you to reconcile and reclaim your heart in some way, and knowing that you can do the foundation of it. But it looks like you've had some energy where it didn't work out. So it will be interesting when we get to the past life energy connecting this. It could be even that you are meant to meet and connect with someone who was not, it was close to being a love before it, but it didn't happen. So there's something like that. I think there's a healing of your heart that's meant to come with this. Let's see what you can teach the family either that you were born into or the family that you create. Okay, you teach a different perspective for a start with the Hangman reversed. So you're going to be different to your family that you're born into, I think, and even maybe initially to some of the members of your family that you create, though I don't think necessarily to your partner. I think that's meant to be part of the healing. You are going to bring in, actually, if you have children, you're going to bring in very unusual, very gifted children. And so part of what you will teach is that perspective and that sense of self-esteem and so forth, and how to manifest things in this world. But you're also going to help teach them how to make decisions, because there's sort of a lack of nurturing, caring, and so forth here. It does, again, I get this sense of almost like arranged marriages or things like that, like the great families and what they decide to do, and you know, like the nanny looks after the children. I'm not saying it's literally that for you, because we're not really so much in that world anymore, but there's a feeling of teaching them about how to nurture and how to love and how to look after and how to make the decisions that are important for that, but a different perspective. I feel this will be with your birth family. It may even be when you have your own family, if that's something that you want to do, or you connect with your person, if that's what you want to do, that you actually create a metamorphosis by example and by doing things differently. So there's something here about you starting to own and understand that you can bring love into your life. And then there is something about shifting the perspective of those who have almost given up on choosing about this and feel at the whim of fate in some way, so that they can change and they can start to create what they do. So for both of you, there's a kind of an energy of coming into your own power, just in different ways. Okay, so let's have a look at past life energy that you may have with members of either your birth family or the family that you may create. Aztec, folklore storyteller, healer. Yeah, there's definitely a healing energy around this, I feel. Tragic accidents. Oh, okay. Inventor and visionary. So whenever I see Aztec or Mayan civilization in this deck, I tend to think of things, I mean, it could have lived in that civilization with members of your current family or the family that you build. But I often think it's about sacrifice, because the Aztec civilization and the Mayan civilization were both very much spiritually built on sacrifice. So I feel as though this sort of sacrifice energy, and also the need for shamanism to get into the depths and to heal, connected to tragic accidents, unintentional. I feel as though there is some past life karma with people either that you were born into the family or that you went through with somebody that you loved, where there was something, there was an accident, there was a loss, there was something like that, there was, or a feeling that you had to sacrifice for the greater good, because your soul family is a bit like that, I have to say. They're a bit about the greater good, you know, rather than the individual good. So I feel like there's some sort of karma around that sort of energy and needing to heal something. But it is about this different perspective. With the inventor, with the folklore storyteller, there is also a capacity within you, I think, as a storyteller, as a visionary, to reconnect with your heart and escape from this sort of sense of loss, and to also help others start to tell their own story as well, to create and manifest in the world. So I think that you are drawn into others who had similar sort of loss and a kind of a sense of fatalism, but you have a little bit more of this energy because of the nature of your soul family to take this and turn it around. But you've been put into this situation so that you will do that, and then that will help others. So that's interesting. So let's have a look at some different ancient cultures or interdimensional cultures that might tell us a little bit more about the connection between you, now we're going to have you here, and then your family, your birth family or your family you're creating, or both. So we'll start with the Mists of Avalon. So you could have sort of Arthurian sort of background. You don't have to. We're looking more about the energy around this. So for you, the Lady of the Lake. So you and your soul family, the Lady of the Lake. Okay. And then for the family either you're born into or create, or both, the dragon. Wow. Okay. Beautiful. So there is a knowledge, there is this perspective, there is this wisdom. Your soul family is very wise. You're very wise. You bring that wisdom in. The Lady of the Lake is interesting, though, with the energy for you, because I feel that she had Excalibur, and she would give Excalibur for the power and for the once and future king, that kind of thing. So she held in her hands the sort of healing energy and the fighting energy for the Arthurian lands, and chose who was the right one. And there is this sense about choosing the right one here. So this is this perspective. The Lady of the Lake has that. So there's very much about self-knowledge, knowing yourself. This is part of why you're here, is to remember who you are, and to remember that you are actually able to love. If you've suffered before, you don't have to do that. You are the visionary, all of that kind of energy. But it is also to empower others with the dragon here, because this is all about strength. This is all about finding the right path and so forth, being able to own power. So this is about manifesting in the world. Your family is meant to regain some sense of power after loss. You are meant to regain a sense of self-esteem, I think, after and love after loss. So there's a similar pathway that you're on. All right, let's see interdimensionally whether or not we have sort of different alien races or other sorts of cultures and mystical traditions to tell us a little bit more about you and your family this time round. So for you, we have Evens, okay? And for your family, Ouroboros. Oh my goodness, very strong dragon energy around your family. So the interesting thing to me about this is that Evens are potentially manufactured. There's nothing manufactured about you or your soul family per se, but there is a sense of the creation. And that goes back to the creation here and the storyteller. I think the energy we're picking up here is that capacity, because it connects to reading between the lines, intuition, again, the connection, very strong connection to the Archangel Gabriel. Mystery is the mystery of being able to create yourself. Your soul family and you are all over that. That's kind of what you do. But the people that you've been born into that aren't of your soul family, and I do think some are, but the people that you've been born into that aren't, and possibly the sort of divine union, are much more fatalistic, and they need to sort of start to see that they can create their eternity. They can create their life cycle. They can shift their karma as well too, because the Ouroboros is all about that, about life and death cycles and having the power to shift that, to manifest what they want to manifest and so forth. So you're like this sort of storyteller that comes into this environment, or comes into a relationship to create a new family, and you start to remember that you can have love. And as you get more and more enthused with all of that, you actually show to others that you can actually create through your own story and your own mind in some way. So let's also have a look at ancient Egyptian energy to do a comparison. So for you, Blue Lotus, enlightenment. Yeah, it's all about intuition, enlightenment, all of that kind of thing. Your soul family has a very powerful spiritual perspective, and it's a long-range one. I think probably most of you are very kind of precognitive and psychic because of that energy. And for the family, Ra, creative power. Yeah, because they're meant to come into their power. You're meant to reignite in them that sense that they can create their own destiny. And there are some of your spiritual family with you. That your soul family, some of them are with you. That's why we've got, because the creativity comes across. So you're not going to be completely on your own with this, whether it is people that you bring into a family that you create, or whether it is around the family that you were born into. There are people around you in your immediate or extended family that are part of your soul family, and they will help you. But there are also others that you are, as I say, joining these two great families, and it's like you are reminding them of their power because they seem to have forgotten it, maybe because of loss. And you can be compassionate because you've had some loss yourself, but you're going to show them that more is possible, more can be manifest. Okay, so let's use a card from the Runic Odyssey Oracle that is connected to the coin that we tossed, that I mentioned in the introduction. Again, this is really about the soul development pathway now for you and for your family and how they connect. So for you, we have waxing crescent moon, set intentions. Yeah, you are all about, you need to set the intention, that long range perspective. Once you do that, you become the storyteller, the visionary. This is really about you reclaiming that. This connection with these people is about you reclaiming your power of intention and creation. And for them, we have Fehu, wealth, abundance. Yeah, they're meant to come into money. It's the joining of the major families. It's something like that. It's meant to create. That becomes the proof. I think it's not creating wealth just for wealth's sake. It's about proving the point that it is possible to create, and it is possible to create more by the combination of these different sort of family energies. Okay, so we're also going to look similarly about the soul and spiritual development path for you and for them using astrology and numerology. So for you, too, yeah, it's about union. You can't do this on your own. You have your soul family, whether you wanted it or not. Your soul family put you in here because you are meant to make this connection. You are definitely meant to make this connection and create this union. It's part of what your development path is this time round. And Sagittarius, which you might buck a bit against because you are very freedom oriented, but it's also about finding the kind of spiritual and philosophical similarity, and the expansion and so forth at Sagittarius, and the creative energy of any fire sign. Okay, and for your family, either birthed or created, or I think for you a bit of both. 8. Yeah, this is about the material world. This is definitely about the material world. And Neptune, bringing in that kind of sort of spiritual power, that understanding, the intuition, all of those sorts of things to create in the material world. Like, it's like the law of attraction in a way. It's the law of manifestation. And I use those sort of terms very advisedly because I don't think it's as simple as people tend to say with law of attraction, but I do think this is part of the pathway this time around, definitely. Okay, so to finish off, we're just going to draw a card for each, for you and for your 3D family around soul development, to finish off with using the soul card. So this is very evocative imagery. It doesn't necessarily mean anything in specific terms. It's just what you draw from it. So I'll tell you what I get for this reading, but by all means pause the video and check it out for yourself and see what it tells you. So for you, I think that's you not really wanting to be born into this. We'll get into it, but it's interesting. And for them, okay. So as I say, this looks like you're kind of going, seriously, do I have to? But there's a rainbow here. There's sort of like, there is a lot to be got from it, but it's almost like you are still grieving from whatever you're grieving from. You're needing to let that energy out. I think that your soul family knows better. It knows that, in fact, by going towards this rainbow and a better outcome, that helps you let that out. But at this point in time, I just think when you kind of got born, you thought, oh, I'm not back here. Why? But there's actually going to be a much better outcome for you. And for them, see, this is finding, I think, the pathway in a forest. This is about the sort of connection of sort of fiery creative energy with the sort of colours, and with a new tree growing, with Ouroboros, a new karmic pathway coming through. So I think you are a catalyst of change. for them and a catalyst of healing, as I said. But it will also happen for you. That you might be trying to hide, but what you're actually hiding from is the rainbow. So the more that you actually understand and own that this is a pathway, that your soul family knew what they were doing, and it is to sort of make the right connections and make the right growth and get you the right sort of outcomes so that you're happier and you've healed, then the sooner you're going to see the rainbow, basically. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 3. I hope it was helpful and you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 4, to your reading. So these cards here are meant to represent, in a sense, the energy of your soul family. And these cards are meant to represent either the family that you were born into or the family that you create. I think for many of you, this will be the family that you were born into. And possibly in all the readings, that's the primary thing, and then it's what it evolves into. But the first thing, again, I'm going to say this before I get into the detail, because what I've done here is I've kind of like used a similar oracle card across each to get a sort of real comparison of the energies. The first really strong feeling I get about this is that your soul family in this earth has manifested quite often, I think, in very powerful lineages, or where culturally or politically or something like that, blood is really important. It's partly why you were drawn to this, kind of blood is thicker than water. But with the concept of a queen energy over here and something else that I see in these cards, it looks as though you have been involved in, it's a very powerful soul family, and in the earth it is very powerful. Whether or not in this particular life you were born into power is another matter. You may in fact have been born into something quite different and you're meant to reclaim it. Or you may be born into that, but you're meant to emancipate yourself from the connection of it. Because there's a very interesting energy here around emancipation with Raziel and prosperity and freedom. And then we have broken dreams. I feel like your soul family has, both you and them, as I say, have been involved in a lot of power and so forth, and a lot of things where bloodlines, generational lines have been very, very important in the material world, probably for centuries, in whatever, and probably in different sort of cultures. But it hasn't necessarily returned everything that any of you in your soul family really wanted. With the broken dreams there, some of you, I think, will have been in powerful situations and suffered for it. With sort of battles between sort of empires and so forth. But there is a real sense now in your spiritual and soul family about wanting the connection that is the ancient wisdom and power and lineage, but also wanting to be able to be each themselves, not just that. So not just the powerful son or daughter of a powerful scion, for instance, or the prince or princess in a medieval court, to be something of yourself. There is almost an energy around your soul family which is about freedom from just being part of the soul family, because it's not necessarily, there's been a kind of almost a bargain around prosperity and then freedom. It's not necessarily an unholy alliance, but there's been a lot of stuff around power. And that is part of what you're looking at and dealing with in your current incarnation. As I say, it could be being born into power and then trying to work out what that means, or it could be being born into the opposite and having to find power. Because here we have the blood, the lineage, and then we have the queen. This could suggest being born into power. It could suggest that one of the things you're meant to do is come into your own power, particularly with Gabriel here around purpose, because Raziel wants emancipation. Gabriel wants purpose, wants a direction. What would it be to be sovereign to yourself? What would it be to bring in a positive future? What would it be to be powerful in the world, but a way that was connected to your purpose, not just to your bloodline in some way? And what wound are you looking to heal where something didn't work out? There's two figures in history that jump out to me with this, and there are probably many others. One is Anne Boleyn. I have huge sympathy for Anne Boleyn. But when I look into this sort of thing, it's like the bloodlines and the families and the power and the broken dreams and not being able to be true to self and not being able to be free, then coming into that with a wounding to then work out what does it mean to be in the world with purpose, not just for power, not just for what the family wanted, but also for the self. The other one I think about is Princess Diana. So this sort of sense of, coming through, coming from this sort of like aristocratic families and so forth, wanting to be self in this, but being connected to the needs and wants of the aristocracy and so forth. What was it to be that in the world, and how to heal the wound, how to get that purpose and so forth. So I'm not saying, that you ramble in, or obviously, I guess probably nobody at this point in time, unless they were very young, was Princess Diana. But I'm just talking about the energy that I'm seeing here. And I do think there's something about power. And I don't know whether you just heard that little noise. That was just a little message coming up on my computer screen. But I always think when things like that happen, it's a really doubling down of spirit to say, yes, this is the core of this. Your soul family, as I say, is very much incarnating over and over into sort of powerful positions. But as I say, you could have chosen to do the opposite. You could have gone into a family without it to heal the wound and to manifest your purpose to bring power and a positive future, rather than just being born into it. Or you may have been born into it and you're saying, how do I heal that which doesn't feel real to me? So it really depends on which of those two characteristics happen. But I do think for most of you that this is talking about the family that you were born into. And there is some similarity, but there is also a very distinct difference. This is about being able to be yourself. So it is in line with what your soul family is trying to do now, but I feel almost like you would have to have been born into a family that was very different, because otherwise, how do you actually start to work that out for yourself? So I suspect you probably haven't been born with many members of your soul family. I suspect it's different, but it is giving you an opportunity to do that. There is a capacity to work out your purpose and a positive future. So before we go to the tarot, we're going to actually ask with the yes/no coin whether you chose to be born into this family, and particularly to be born into the family, because obviously if you're looking at a family that you're developing, you've chosen to do that in some way. But we want to see whether the answer is yes or no to that. And if the answer is no, whether or not your soul family chose for you to be born into it, or whether it's something that goes even above that. So firstly, let's ask, did you choose to have this life? No. Okay. So did your soul family choose for you to go into this? No. Okay. So something bigger than that, fate, has done this. So I suspect it might be to try and break a cycle, because it's not working anymore for your soul family or for you. So this is a higher level thing, and it doesn't surprise me in a way that it came out as 2 no's, because this feels like real power. So I feel like there's bigger issues at play here. When you are in the lineages that, rule the world, they're bigger issues than you. So as I say, whether or not you were born into something completely different because you're meant to come into your own sovereignty, or whether you're born into it again, but this time to connect your purpose and to heal the wounds, there's a bigger ticket thing at play here with you. Okay, so let's see with tarot then. Since the answer is no, you didn't choose this, and neither did your soul family really. The bigger forces are involved in this particular incarnation and this experience you have. What is that all about? Why is that the case? Okay, so it's interesting we've got the Empress and the Queen. This is definitely meant to be about power, but potentially I think with the Empress energy, more a nurturing power, and one that heals sort of wounds. So the healing of the wound is really important. You've really, I think, suffered for being in this environment, and maybe you are seen as a key to sort of breaking some of that generational karma and so forth that's associated with it. But there's definitely kind of a healing of a wound, and you have the capacity to do it. You are almost the ambassador to the different way and the different approach and the more egalitarian approach, because you also have a very finely tuned sense about what is fair, right and wrong. Whereas I feel like this was all about power. This is why the kind of the ego issue. Like people say, like the higher self doesn't have ego, and spiritual soul families don't have ego, but I don't think that's true, because I don't know why we would need to be incarnated if every time we go back we're so evolved. Why do we need to be incarnated? I think that they're just at different dimensions. We have different sort of perspectives on what the healing needs to be. So I feel that for you, there is a real healing around fortune, and there is a sense with the Wheel of Fortune reversed there that yes, you did not choose this. This was required of you. because there is something to be reclaimed, something that is meant to be more about the first house and more about purpose. The sun is reversed. It's got caught in the issues of fortune and power, and therefore emotionally stuck. But you have a capacity, because of your inner empress, your inner queen, to turn this around. That's why you've been put out there to try and start to shift that karma in some way. So I think most of you, no, I won't say that, because, like I was going to say, most of you probably are born into something fairly powerful, or have connections and networks, but it won't always be the case. It could be healing the wound by the exact opposite, and taking that experience and creating something, a self-made person. So it could be either. So let's ask what you are going to learn from being in this family that I feel is similar but different. It's got a similar sort of material focus, but it's more purpose driven. But it needs to heal. So let's see. That's what you've got in common. Like where you've been born has in common with your lineage. If it isn't your soul family, there is a healing need. So what can you learn from this? Okay. So you're going to go more into your mind. This is what you're going to learn, that it's almost about learning, but it's about alternative learning. So it's, again, if you had been born into some aristocratic family, you probably would have been one of the few that was given sort of proper education back in the day. Now education is more generally available. But I feel as though this is about you breaking patterns. You're learning different ways of thinking, different ways to learn, and different ways to manifest. Like it's all about, so for many of you, yeah, you probably do have to build this rather than coming from networks and connections and so forth. For those of you that do come into sort of power and so forth, there's still a sort of thing where you're learning how to be different within that, and how to trust your own intellect. Because the Knight of Swords, tends to sort of move very fast and quickly. So you're meant to be learning this energy about moving fast and quickly about what you decide, not getting caught up in what isn't working, but moving through things and going towards the untraditional. It's very traditional. So this is breaking through this energy into something that's untraditional, and therefore making material decisions that aren't just about the powers of the world, the philosophies of the world, the religions of the world, that kind of thing. So you're learning to think differently, fast, not to be impeded, and so forth, and to not let the powers of the world control what you think your options are. What are you teaching your family? So you're going to help your family. If your family isn't wealthy to start with, you're going to help build that sort of sense of how to be Capricornian, how to the wealth of the world, how to be stable, how to move forward, how to heal sort of very old sort of family patterns and so forth. But you're teaching them not to sort of get caught in the weeds, to be able to make decisions rather than overthinking it, and how to sort of like to move from, because they're not thinking it through. This wound or whatever it is stopping them from thinking through how to make their decisions, and they're feeling like they have to play games and so forth to survive, but that's not creating what they want to create. You're going to show them through just getting on with it and not listening to other viewpoints and so forth, that's how you can create the new dynasty, the new lineage, the new wealth, the new Capricornian energy. But it's about purpose. It's not about trying to second guess everything. So again, there's such a feeling of like aristocratic families in a medieval court, because if you sort of went with this sort of energy around a family, again, going with the Anne Boleyn thing, her family were always into the intrigue and therefore did not create what they could have created. They created sort of a dynasty on shifting sands because of all the intrigue. You cutting through that and not playing the games and being unconventional, you're going to have an impact around the prosperity for your family on a broader level and a different perspective for them. Very interesting energy. Okay, so let's have a look at what past life energy you may be, or karmic energy you may be sort of sharing with your birth family or the family that you create. Yeah, I thought so. Wow, okay. Okay, so there's something in there, some of this power or whatever came from sort of like psychic, witchy sort of abilities. There's potential that there was persecution for that reason. This could be some of the broken dreams. When you play with a lot of power, whether it's psychic power or material power, there's always that risk. And where there are warring factions and warring sort of religious beliefs. So, the sort of lineage that was sort of brought up, around the time of the Spanish Inquisition against people who were more pagan, for instance. There's something like that. There's something about dealing with the wounds from that kind of stuff. Very strong psychic ability. I'm feeling like when I see builder, architect, stonemason there, apart from the sort of like wanting karmically to build something that lasts, I'm feeling like Freemasons, that kind of thing, secret societies. I feel like there's some sort of connection there. And, industrial revolution, industrial power, but definitely money. If you aren't in money now, I think you're heading to money because you've been in it a lot. And a lot of what you know, and a lot of, in a sense, what you're breaking through to get to purpose is through all that power politics and money politics. And where it's been very wounding and where it's been very sort of like building and so forth. So it's a bit of both. There's a lot of power and energy around you of that sort of nature. Okay. So let's have a look at some spiritual comparisons. So we're going to have you here and then and to some degree your soul family and your current family around 3 different decks. So the first one's around Avalon. So it's around Arthurian sort of energy. So this doesn't necessarily mean you have to have been in Avalon or anything like that. This is just around the kind of energy that we see to do this comparison again. So for you, the Abbey. Okay. That's interesting. And for your soul family, Bridget. Okay. So your soul family are meant to sort of be prosperous and to be fiery and creative and all that kind of energy. There's definitely sort of radiance around it and soul empowerment, but it's getting towards passion and purpose, not just towards the wealth. So it really is about what am I really here to do and what am I really here to create? That's where it comes from, not from just connections, networks, playing power politics. For you, there is a sense in your soul, and this might be why you didn't really choose to be here, where you would prefer to cloister yourself away and contemplate and be serene and find your purpose within, but you're kind of being thrown into this to help yourself and others find the purpose that is connected to the wealth, to sort some of this energy out. So you didn't have much choice because it is about something that's a lot more powerful, and I think a lot more sort of, it will touch more people than even you and your family. Let's have a look with the Mystic Martian Oracle about sort of interdimensional or other sort of like kind of religious and spiritual connections that might be permeating this you and your family. So firstly for you, oh wow, alchemy, the Philosopher's Stone, okay. And for your soul family, oh God, you can't really write home about this. This is like so classic. So Alpha Draconians, all the powers of the world. Like, this is about breaking through all the powers of the world. There's a lot of stuff, and even if the family that you're in is not powerful, I would say you all came from powerful families. You kind of like come together into a different environment to start to sort through that and find purpose and be freed. Very important. You have the mystical knowledge, definitely. The psychic abilities, the alchemy connecting to Freemasonry, all of that you definitely have. So that capacity to transmute and transform, you're definitely bringing in. And this is why you didn't have any choice, Paul. You were meant to do this because this has a bigger freedom thing and a healing thing for more than you and your family. It's, there's something significant you're meant to do. All right, let's have a look with ancient Egyptian energy as well for you. So for you, Ankh, energy healing. Yeah, healing. Healing the wounds. Healing the broken dreams. It's for some even like healing the blood in some way. And for your family, Ra, creative power. Yeah, they're meant to be creative. It's meant to be purpose. The power is meant to come from the creative energy and from warmth and passion, not from this sort of very cold reptilian powers of the world type of energy. So yeah, you're really meant to shift the dial with the people around you. Okay, so then let's have a look at what the soul development is for each of you. So for you, and then also for your current family or birth family. And we're using firstly the runic Odyssey Oracle, so runic and Norse and sometimes moon energy from this particular deck. So for you, we have Berkano, fertility, growth. Okay, so you're meant to grow something new, grow something that's fertile, grow something that's abundant, but something that's healthy. You know, there's a necessity to do something healthy out of this. And for them, we have waning gibbous, introspection. Yeah, they're meant to go within and sort out what's going on. So I do think for most of you, there's a lot around power, how to get on in the world, how to create in the world, who you're going to be in the world. But if they go within, they get to their purpose. They free themselves from this just success at all cost type of energy. Okay, so let's also see similarly around soul development from an astrological or numerological viewpoint. Firstly, for you, Imam Kohli, the IC. Okay, yeah, all right. Who you are at a base. And the North Node, South Node. Yeah, you had no choice whatsoever. Sorry, powerful. But who you were at the base, who you really are, your purpose, all of that was going to be very, very important. This was you to really find out what that is, to extricate yourself from just power that has to do with who you are living with, who you've married, what your lineage is, and really coming into your own power and your own life path. So this is for you as well, but I think it is bigger than that. And then for the family that you were born into. Yod. Yeah, destiny. Wow. We'll get to the planets. And 7th house. Yeah. The connections, the relationships. This was very, very important. These were destined. You were meant to be with this family, whether it's tricky and difficult, whether it's easy, whether it's, you know, mutually healing, whether it's sort of like creating wounds before it can be healed, whatever it is, there was destiny around this. There wasn't any escaping it. Really strong karmic stuff. Let's have a look what the planets are with the Yod. So a Yod is the finger of fate. So it is basically 2 planets that kind of point towards a third. So we will have a look at what those planets are for you. So just bear with me as I deal out, because it can take a little while to get a planet. Oh, hang on, I almost passed one by. Chiron. So healing again. Yeah, this is definitely about generational healing, I think. Black Moon Lilith, yeah. Power, how we feed, how we grow, who we are at our depths, healing, all of that. And it's pointing towards sorry, takes a while. Venus, love, who we love, how we love, and all that sort of Empress sort of energy, Queen energy, being that, becoming Venus, becoming the Empress, becoming the Queen. There is a healing at a very deep level going on for you, and I think for others. It's a mutual thing. And it isn't necessarily what you would have chosen to do it, but it nevertheless is what is necessary for you and for others. So to finish off, we're just going to draw a card for each, for you and for your soul family, from the Soul Cards deck. So that has very evocative, dreamlike imagery. There's no set meaning to these, so I will just tell you what I feel about it. For the collective reading, I'd suggest just pausing the video and contemplating what it means to you as well. So, for you, that's interesting. That came up for another one. There might be some connection between 2 of these readings in terms of the soul families. And for the family that you're with. Okay. So what I feel from this is that sort of sense of disconnecting, actually, and being able to fly on your own and have your own wisdom. It's interesting, like the eye symbolism too, with a sense of Freemasonry. I do think that there's connections in your karmic background in your soul family to things like the Knights Templar, Freemasonry, that kind of thing, or secret societies in some way. But I think you are finding some peace in being free from that, like finding yourself and your own wisdom, taking your own wisdom. So there's a little bit of a separation from your soul family. Not necessarily for forever, but I think that there is a need for you to find yourself. And I think your whole soul family is doing that. That's why that kind of like the first house was important here. You're all kind of doing that. The more I think about it, the more I think it's unlikely you were born into a family with many of your own soul family, because I think like you're all kind of spread out and finding that healing by being in a different situation, a different experience. For your family that you were born into, it's like this is an introspective feeling, but I think they're very tentatively looking down into the world, looking at what they could do. So that whatever that wound is that they need to heal, that you start to show them the different way of thinking and the way to explore. They're feeling open to that. There is a sense of, okay, maybe we could do this. Maybe there is a pathway, but it's quite tentative at the moment. So I think the more that you go towards your own freedom and the example of it, the more that they can actually explore that and come into a purposeful type of success and power. So very interesting energy. You come from a very interesting soul family and have a very interesting pathway this time around. But I do feel like you will succeed. I just feel like you have to own your own power that is separate to everything else. It is an energy of emancipation, because that's what all your soul family are going through at the moment. But it's a healthy thing to do, because you can take all the wisdom and knowledge that you've had, and then you can actually put it into being in some way that is purposeful and about you, and that heals some of the wounds that have come from being involved in power over and over and over. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 4. I hope it was helpful and you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd be really fascinated to hear about this. But beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings.